Hey guys, what's up? It's Slop, coming back with another episode of Car Rides with Slop. And I don't know, today I think started out pretty good. I think you can recall from the last episode, I thought my mood was fairly chipper. Alas, a wave of sadness has afflicted me pretty much right at the end of the day. But before we get into that, a few changes I want to address. I am, for the time being, switching back to the front-facing camera. This is because I inevitably have realized that while there is quality improvements over using the rear-facing camera, I don't know that it's enough to warrant the pretty dramatic losses that occur in using the rear camera. Mainly, it's much harder to look at the camera and be present for the recording. It just is. I think it's inevitable that I just don't end up looking over as frequently. It's much more difficult to make sure that you have the right angle, obviously, because you don't have a screen to check. So that's kind of risky. Because now I can glance and adjust accordingly if there's a blatant issue. And with the rear shooter, I don't have that luxury. Now, speaking of the camera, it is fairly pertinent to what we're going to end up talking about. That's kind of why I'm bringing it up and addressing it, and just taking note that this episode is recorded with the front-facing camera. Now, the current positioning of the camera, I am uncertain about. In my opinion, it just seems a tad, just a touch too close. But I'm not really sure. I'm not entirely sure that it is too close, but that's just my opinion about it. Now, for what it is, I think it's pretty relevant to have it up close because you're going to get more detail of the only important thing, not just excess car interior, which is what you're getting. There's the only thing that's getting cut out, essentially, by zooming in closer to my face. It all makes sense. It all adds up, I suppose. Let's cut to the crux of the issue. I've mentioned before about how I always had some kind of inclination towards fame. I'm not really sure why. I always did, though. I always kind of wanted to be famous. Truly. And the first time that was really evident, that I can recall, is when YouTubers came into the picture. And I was exposed to Let's Plays. I just immediately was interested in it. I liked them a lot. I watched a lot of Let's Plays. And I loved the talking part of it. I loved the game part of it. Because especially back then, I was very into games. And it was basically a perfect match. It was basically a perfect match. I've already mentioned this before, but I would begin to emulate the format. I was going to say form factor. I guess that would still technically be correct, but format. I would emulate the format when I would be playing on my DS by myself. I would talk to myself and try to be interesting and all that. And then eventually I did get to the point where with my iPod I tried to come up with some kind of way to prop it up so that it would face the DS screen and record, and I would talk about things. And I would do it a lot. And that was always sort of a thing. I guess I didn't quite do it as much as time progressed. Then when Minecraft came out, my friend put me on that. I think I got it right when 1.5 came out, kinda. And obviously then it seemed like a cool idea to be a Minecraft YouTuber. But that was always there. Always there was fame. I always wanted to be famous. I wanted to be able to talk. Because I would do it in my free time just automatically anyway. Just what I did for fun. Things evidently never worked out. Obviously, I was a child back then. I was only 10. I think, well, for Pokemon, I was probably only 9 or 10, and then for Minecraft, I was probably 11 by then, but my voice was still higher pitched, and it just doesn't. Being so young, I think it's kind of impossible to really get anywhere. Although some people do. So I guess maybe I shouldn't say that. Now, evidently what happened after that is I did find some success or acclaim, and it was, as I had mentioned before, it was through CSGO. I would talk to a lot of people on there. I basically had felt like at the time I was ostracized too much out of my friend group. I was made fun of too much. I'm assuming they were probably joking, but I became the black sheep. I became the punching bag, and I didn't want to be that. I wanted to have comfort, or wanted someone to be like an actual friend. I don't know. I didn't want to be the punching bag. And increasingly, that was how I was made to feel. So I thought my friends had just introduced me to CSGO, and I would talk in CSGO. And I thought maybe talking in CSGO would help me to talk better in real life, because I would at least get some practice talking to other people. That was the theory. And then I'd be able to make new friends who I felt like treated me more as an equal and less of a toy or someone who's just fun to make fun of. And that was my intention with it. I'm not really sure how much things helped, though. I don't know if it really made my anxiety worse, but it didn't help it. I don't think it helped it. And I never ended up making those new friends. I just went from having friends to having no friends, which is obviously a very difficult thing in, I think, 8th, 9th grade. A very difficult thing, particularly for me. And I wasn't as aware of it at the time, but because prior to then I always had friends. But not having friends was a very difficult thing for me to contend with. I'm a pretty social person. I like to talk to people a lot. I've always said it. There's nothing better than good company. But I didn't know that then. At that point, I always had friends. I just did. There was never a question of that, so I don't know that I ever came to realize that I needed social outlet until it was gone. And once it was gone, then I realized how hard it was and how much that hit to not have it anymore. And it was just a period where I guess I learned a lot about myself. I wanted to try to be a better person. A lot of stuff like that. Spending time trying to be more educated on things. Going on YouTube not for entertainment but for education. Different than what anyone else was doing at my age. But as much as I hungered for that, I wasn't really getting anything done. I wasn't putting that effort or energy into anything tangible. And that was what I think the problem was now. What I was putting it into was, I guess, philosophical, or you could even call it religious study, which has shaped me and it's given me good perspective on things, but I still kind of got away with being lazy. And I don't know how good that was. Although as I'm saying that, I'm getting a little bit conflicted because I'm having a lot of contradictions right now. Conflicts. Then there was an isolatory period. Then when I was around 17, I thought I had learned all this wisdom to help people, and I wanted to spread it. And I thought I would be there for other people to help make them happy, and in turn I would also be happy because I knew what I wanted and needed. And then it turns out nobody knows what they want and nobody knows what they need. And I found that out the hard way. And people just don't care. And I found that out the hard way too. I was really naive. I still probably am naive to some things. I'm a lot better than I was before. It's actually hard to glance at the phone because of the sun, so my apologies. Well, not that you're going to know, but actually trying to socialize was a true and deep smack in the face. A true, deep, and painful smack in the face. Okay. Sorry, these people were just like really not merging. Because the one person's car, it looks like it's kind of messed up. And the back bumper's scraping on the ground. There's no traffic, so sadly, of course, when you want traffic, it's not here. Because I do want time to kind of get into what I'm talking about. I still think I'll have enough time, but then for a brief period of time, I wanted to chase fame again, and that was with the creation of Too Much Slop, a name familiar to those watching. But as you can see based on my uploads, I gave up on that too and entered a period of such intense sadness, not isolation, because I tried to reach out to people, but sadness, confusion. And I remember the moment that started it all. I remember the moment. I had just felt like things were getting worse. I had had previous YouTube channels when I tried the same formula, but over time, there was more burnout, there was more fatigue, more confusion. And by the time we got to Too Much Slop, I believe it was my third successful channel, and by successful, of course, 200 subscribers. But I earned them myself. Nobody handed them to me at all. I earned them manually. I think I had channels prior to that, but they never really amounted to anything. And I don't know, I just remember I really broke down one night and made a pretty firm choice to just give up. And I remember I was sort of plunging into trying to watch some shows kind of from my childhood. When I was a kid, I watched Kids Next Door a lot, or I don't know what the full title is, Operation Kids Next Door or something. Cartoon Network. I looked it up, tried watching it. A lot of times when you do that, though, you kind of like don't really get it. It's not the same as when you were a kid, so it wasn't, evidently. But I just specifically remember watching that. Weren't things so simple then? I remember being a child and just how easy it seemed to be satisfied. If my dad made me pasta with beef, just playing a video game, not much of a care in the world, really. It all changes so fast. And I think for my generation, it changed even faster. The pressure we're put under, the lack of a future, the lack of structure, the confusion, even though in a lot of ways we're more spoiled. It really makes you wonder. And the gift I have to be able to remember these memories so vividly, such a good, wonderful time. Is it even a strength? Or is it a weakness that I get lost? I don't think most people remember things the way I do. I've said it before, but when I listen to the Car Rides with Schla and I say certain things that are memorable, I remember when I said them. It just pops up in my head. Not always, not every word, but some words. Things were so good, though. I had such a good early childhood. I don't know. At least from my memory, it just really, and that's probably something that I should be really grateful for, because I know a lot of people don't have that, but I truly feel that, again, from my memory, my early childhood was just great. I really don't remember ever having to deal with anything that bad. And I just remember, of course, there were good times, there were bad times, but it was overall really good, and things just tanked so hard the older I got. Once I got to be about 8 or even 7. Now, nothing wrong directly happened, but things just, I don't know, weren't really working out for me. At least that's how it felt. And it was slow, it was gradual. That didn't happen immediately. I didn't just immediately become 7 years old. I'm talking about if you go from 7 to 14, which I think I was at my lowest around, I would honestly say I was at my lowest from towards the end of 13. You could honestly argue even up until not even too long ago was like kind of the worst, although sprinklings of things that were pretty good. I mean, when I was out of school, I did get to experience freedom, although not in the way that I really wanted to. It wasn't a good freedom. There's no way we're going to get to what I wanted to talk about, because we're already so, of course there's no traffic. The one day I have a lot to say. I always have a lot to say, but I mean, this is something I really wanted to get off my chest, and I'm not even going to get to the thing that I wanted to get off my chest, so I don't know. We're trying. Maybe we'll get there if I didn't complain so much. There were ups and downs, but mostly things were just really confusing and didn't make any sense from 13 to 21. I could even say 13 to 22, because I only think things are just now making sense. I think turning 23, for some reason, there has been something. There's been a light at the end of the tunnel. There's something there. Something's going on. Something's making sense. I don't think I'm out of it yet, but it does feel like something's making sense. And I'm really trying to re-examine myself and try to understand, what is it that I truly want? What is it that I really want? And that's the crux of really what I'm getting to, is I have to make a decision. I want to be famous. I always have, but I also don't. I think there's a supreme comfort in not being famous for me. But at the same time, I really want to be famous. And it's such a contradicting, conflicting, but super critical point of myself and my life is I feel afraid to even try, but if I don't try, I feel unfulfilled. There's just a lot of worries. There's a lot of worries about all the things that can go wrong with fame. But I don't know. At the same time, I could just be overreacting over nothing. Maybe nothing bad would happen to me. And that's kind of the craziest part, right? But there's no turning back. And I'm talking about the face reveal. It's one of those things that I put off from the start, but it's really not making much sense, is it? It's just not. Doesn't make much sense for me to be doing the black video. I should be showing my face. That's what everybody would want. But I just haven't been able to bring myself to do that, and I don't know that I've had the time to process it. I don't really want my face out there. But at the same time, I do. And that's the crux of the problem. Right? I want my face out there, but at the same time, I'm not sure that I do. And I feel like I have to make a decision soon, because it's just going to be one of those things that if I don't do it, I mean, that's fine if I just never end up doing it. But if I do it, I really might as well start relatively soon. Like, I shouldn't just keep holding out, because then it's just a lot of lost potential. If I just keep stalling it, I'm not really getting anything out of it at that point. And if I'm going to do it anyway, I should just do it now. There's not really a reason to keep waiting and having all these black screen episodes. So I need to think about it. I need to reflect on it. And I was hoping that talking about it would help, but I don't really know what there is to truly talk about. I tried to give the prelude of how I wanted to be famous, I don't want to be famous. But I just don't know. I mean, I was hoping that talking it through would help, but what is there to really delve into with that? I'm not sure. But I'm afraid. I'm afraid of what lies ahead, but I feel like it's just a total loss of potential if I give into that. I think so much of what I'm capable of and what I've meant to do involves putting myself out there. And I do. I do think deep down I really want myself very much out there. But I'm very afraid at the same time. And everything's happened so fast where all of a sudden I had motivation to do this. I followed through with it. In addition, it makes sense. Everything's making sense. I'm doing it. Even on a day like today where I'm like pretty upset. I'm not unable to do the episode. I'm able to do it. I'm able to do it just fine. And that means something. But when it comes to career, I feel like I have to make a decision where I don't know how worth it is to keep doing it with the black screen. And then it begs the question, well, is it really the right choice if you're just thinking about career-wise? I don't know. I think it's an important consideration. Because, I mean, what if I'm never comfortable showing my face? But what if it could really save and change my life if I just showed it? What if the mistake for me is not showing it? It's just so hard to say, and I just want to make sure I make the right decision. Maybe I just overcomplicate choices. Maybe a lot of these choices aren't that complicated. Maybe, again, nothing's going to happen. But it's always possible. I've come a long way with that, though. I used to be incredibly worried, even driving to work, what could happen. Something eventually did happen, but luckily it only cost me a few $100s because somebody pulled out and I had to swerve off the road to avoid hitting them, and luckily my car wasn't damaged. Obviously, I ended up in that Dodge really saving both me and her a lot of money because of her poor choice. And I also could have hurt her really badly. I think most drivers would not have been able to pull off what I pulled off. So but I don't even think about it that much anymore. I've just come so far when it comes to anxiety and worry, but the fame and the face, I guess it hasn't carried over to that yet. I'm still worried and skeptical of it. But I always get like that. I just want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. But I'm feeling deeper convicted about it. I'm feeling a deeper conviction about it. I don't know why I spoke it like that. And yeah, it just seems like a rush of, what am I supposed to do? And I kind of need to make the decision pretty soon, because if I don't, that could be that. Whoa. They really did not need to do that. Someone basically ran a stop sign and they almost hit me. Like, I had to kind of slow down. And they were driving a minivan with that height modification to give it extra depth underneath. They usually use it for handicapped people, like so you can fit a wheelchair in there or something. I don't know. I just couldn't believe that. Like, why would you drive that kind of car like that? Well, anyways, I guess I did get I guess I did get to what I wanted to talk about, but I'm assuming tomorrow's episode will be on a similar topic, unless I have some kind of breakthrough tonight. But as for now, it is time for TLDR's Witch Law. Today on Car Rides... TLDR's Witch Law. Today on Car Rides Witch Law. It's kind of sad. I'm just trying to assess where I'm at. Got a little bit nostalgic for the past and how much nicer and easier and simpler things are in childhood, and just reminisced for a bit and tried to give a bit of a narrative as to my past and my present. And then I'm talking about the anxieties of the face reveal. I think that sums it up. See you, Schla. Bye, Schla. Schla out.